Would you believe it? I started a Woolgathering video last Saturday and I got 21 minutes into it and my manager arrived. And so that video ended with me just saying, oh, my manager's arrived, and I plan to get back to it later. Later never happened because, as we know, we're currently in winter. And so that means it gets dark early. So it's dark before I get home. And when I get home on a Saturday, well, it was strictly up until last night. And that was just a drama of a final, wasn't it? Then Sunday came around and I didn't get a chance to record then. Monday back at work. And Tuesday is when I started feeling a bit under the weather. My manager claimed that she caught a cold off me back when I had mine and got sent home a few weeks ago. And then she had 2 jabs or whatever, and this cold was still there all these weeks later. And I was like, well, don't worry, we're all getting regular tests, don't worry. Anyway, I started feeling a bit funny on Monday night. Tuesday I planned to go Christmas shopping with my parents, and I cried off that saying that I was tired, and I thought that it was just stress, I'd had a lot of stress going on for the previous days. I'm calling it stress, it wasn't really, it was just more hectic than usual, and someone who likes a lackadaisical life, who really enjoys a languid pace, it had proven to be a bit more rushed than usual. I thought, well, I'll just relax today. Listen to something, listen to audiobooks whilst having a bath, trying to get rid of it that way. Really took it easy. No point doing that. Wednesday morning, full-blown cold. So then it was 2 days trying to get rid of that. So I've read barely nothing of Honeycomb by Joanne M. Harris, which I didn't expect to be so dark. I'm only 100 pages in. I did not expect the tales in here to be so dark, but I should have guessed they would be, because Joanne M. Harris is creating new fairy tales. It's actually fantastic. The prose is brilliant and just what I thought it would be for this time of year, and I'm merely annoyed with myself that I wasn't able to get it all completely read in one day as I planned. And I'm still cracking on with the Christmas Chronicles by Nigel Slater. I'm behind with this, as I get behind with this every weekend. I either read loads of it on a Thursday in preparation for not being able to read it on Friday or Saturday, or I just catch up with it all today, which is what will be happening. So yeah, so whilst the cold had mostly gone again by Friday morning and I was able to go to work, I just didn't really feel like reading. I'd started listening to a book called The 12 Slays of Christmas, which is a cozy crime, and it's an American cozy crime. The reason I have to preface that is simply because American cozies are a lot different to the UK ones, at least the UK ones that I have read. And they have this tone, once again, that is incredibly sugary sweet and almost like a Hallmark movie. And I listened to this first 2 chapters on the way home from work, and I did not like it. And so I couldn't bring myself to listen to it on the way to work. So I think that was the day that I listened to my Christmas CD on the way to and from work. And then yesterday on the way to work, I listened to French and Saunders Titting About Christmas special. I really enjoy their podcast, and this was no different. It was great to hear about their Christmases and their traditions and what they get up to. And they talked about Delia Smith's Christmas Cookbook and how they're still using it. And I knew they would. I knew it was going to be Delia Smith as soon as they mentioned how they go about it, because I get tons of copies of Delia Smith's Christmas every year donated to the charity shop. I think it comes from people dying, or they figured, they've had it for that many years, they now know the whys and wherefores of this book. But it is incredibly popular, and apparently it just tells people how to get through the entire thing. And for a lot of folk, it's reduced the stresses of Christmas dinner and the entire day, and good for them. I have yet to figure out what I am cooking for my own Christmas dinner, because last year the festive pie didn't work out, as we know. The first year, I believe it was parsnips, mushrooms and carrots and all this other stuff, chopped up, cream sauce, under pastry. I'm not really sure I feel like that this year. I am just considering getting some of those cauldron vegetarian sausages in and calling it a day. My mother has gone out of the way to buy a nut roast though, But who likes a nut roast, really? Have you ever met a person who's gone, do you know what? I really fancy a nut roast. Which has just reminded me, we will have to do another shop this week. I am supposed to finish work tomorrow for a week. So finish tomorrow the 20th and return on the 29th to just, yeah, because, well, basically it's just the way Christmas works. My colleague would have to come in on the Wednesday, the 29th, for one day and then be off again for another week, after just being off for a week. Because she does Monday to Wednesday and then I do Friday to Monday. She finishes Wednesday and then would have to come back in on Wednesday for one day to be off until the following Tuesday. So I said, well, I'll do the Wednesday, because it's what we've always done. I take off around Christmas Eve and she takes off around New Year's Eve. But it doesn't really work that way this year because of how it falls. And then because my manager never really gets to feel the benefit of Christmas, I said to her, well, if I'm having Christmas Eve off, I don't really feel like coming in on the Wednesday, having the Thursday off, coming back on the Friday for half a day. You cancel those 2 days and I'll do for you. So that's what we've done. I'm going in for the 3 days next week. And in my head, I was looking forward to this whole thing of just not doing anything for the week. Starting my Christmas celebrations tomorrow when I finish work, and then not doing anything. Well, we've got gift exchanges to happen at work, so I'll still have to go and travel down there. I've seen some stuff I want to buy from the supermarket there. I nearly bought them yesterday, but I'm like this over it because it's quite an extravagant purchase, and there's still that part of me that's got the mentality like, whilst I know that I can afford this extravagance, and it's not the biggest thing in the grand scheme of things at £10, £10 is still a lot of money to me. I also wanted to use the time to finish my first round of, well, is it my first round of editing? Because I edit as I write. I want to finish another round of editing on the Final Doris book, because I wanted to send that to beta readers in January. And then once that bit's done, hire a friendly editor. I already think we know who that's going to be if they'll say yes, but we'll have a look. We'll wait and see how things go. Also, this Wednesday coming, is supposed to be meeting a friend to, again, exchange Christmas gifts, chat to one another, that whole thing. Oof. I tell you, I don't know why people do the run up to Christmas. I'm not a Scrooge. I'm definitely not one of them. I mentioned it in this video from last week that I won't be putting online, that for me, one of the joys of Christmas was getting to spend it with family and about all the family coming together. But with my mother having been off sick since April, and my father being at home a lot anyway, my younger brother being here much more than usual, I've got to see the family the entire year round. So quite honestly, a Christmas miracle for me would be a tiny little bit of a break. But then also, you see, it's like this, isn't it? It's like not a catch-22 situation, but it's one of them where you'd like some alone time, but also Christmas is supposed to be about family and fun, but also you're having to like force fun. And I said last year, let's not force any fun on anybody. It's like, you might want a drunken game of Monopoly, but you might have to jog on this year, mate. But anyway, I am actually looking forward to not having the obligation to be in work from tomorrow, which I know technically only taking the one day off for Christmas Eve isn't much, but it gives, like, it feels like a nice break to me. Even if it is for Christmas, I feel like I'll be more relaxed. I'll feel like I'll be able to actually knuckle down then and get the presents sorted, and everyone will be saying, well, it's a bit late now, you won't be able to get anything delivered. And do you know what? You're right, I won't be able to get anything delivered. I'm going to have to actually brave the shops again and get very annoyed with people again. I might have to accidentally lock some people in some flaming freezers. I might go to the supermarket at flaming 1 o'clock in the morning to avoid folk. I don't know. I have got everyone at least one gift that I want to get gifts for, but there's something in my head that says they're just not the best. And there's another part of me that thinks, well, frugality. Other people will be getting them stuff as well. They don't need to be overloaded. But I'm like, yeah. But the way I look at presents is, you're getting gifts to show your gratitude for this person's existence, And what I've got so far doesn't really look like I care about their existence too much. So I need to purchase more to emphasise how appreciative I am of their existence. Does anyone want to make a life-size mould of a border collie? I'm not giving a gift to a border collie anyway, but I did just think that would be awful. I was about to say to make a chocolate mould of a dog and then give it to the owner. But can you imagine the poor dog having to witness its owner eating it? Oof. You'd have to melt it down, wouldn't you? You'd have to melt it down and make some sort of hot chocolate. I just remembered another gift I got for somebody. I best find that. I don't know what happened to that. Oh, and that was expensive enough as well. Oof. Maybe I've shown more appreciation than I thought. Don't worry, they don't watch these videos. I know that certain members of my family have watched these videos before and laughed at me. Younger brother, older brother. But that's just who they are. They're around to mock you, aren't they? I think that's just the point of siblings nowadays. I believe it was actually Brian. Was it Brian of Bookish who told me that? Who, when I mentioned about one of my siblings taking the piss, he was just like, well, that's what they're there for. I should know, I've got 4 of them. I always forget, you know. I kept saying about having 4 brothers. I don't have 4 brothers, I have 3 and a sister. But my sister has 4 brothers. And then I've got 1 brother who has 3 brothers and 2 sisters. Because he is one of 6. But I am one of 5. Makes sense, doesn't it? It makes a lot of sense. Everyone always used to say my family was like a spirograph, and that's why I think I know somebody who's writing for Coronation Street. Because stories I used to tell have appeared on that show, and certain things that I have said to people have appeared on that show. And I remember many, many, many moons ago, because don't forget, I know a lot of writers. Many moons ago, I was chatting to somebody about the soaps, and I said, look, if I was in charge of such and such a show, this is what I would do. And suddenly these things started happening. Now, I'm not saying I know somebody who works for the show, but these things have happened. Either that or the show's getting incredibly predictable and I was able to see where things are going. Even my younger brother will do it sometimes. He'll come down and he'll be sat there and my dad will have Emmerdale on or whatever, and my brother will just start saying lines, and that'll be what the person says, because obviously when it comes to these shows, it's a bit paint by numbers, isn't it? You know how things are going to go. I always say once people start talking about the dreams, you know they're going to cark it. It's many years ago when they did the whole helicopter crash in Emmerdale over Debbie Dingle's wedding, and suddenly this nurse who had, this carer who'd previously had no aspirations. You rarely saw her on the screen. She was just like a side character who her only business was being married. Suddenly, the entire week got about her and the focus was on her, and she was getting all these scenes, and she was talking about wanting to become a nurse, and she's having all these chats with these older characters like, oh, love, you're going to cark it. It's like people started having arts to arts that had arts to arts before. Yeah, like I say, predictable. Otherwise, have I watched any more Christmas movies since last we spoke? Yes, when I was feeling a bit under the weather last week, I watched a few Christmas specials on Gold. Finally got to see the last of the Summer Wine ones that I'd wanted to see, apart from the one where Marina's on the roof and Father Christmas walks past. I can't find that one. I can't remember which one that is called. But I got to see the first one that Truly of the Yard appears in, and I was very grateful for that, because I'd only been talking about it the day before and I've never got to see it the whole way through. It's also feature length, and the reason that I was very happy to have finally seen this one all the way through, apart from the fact that it was one of the feature length specials, is that you get to see the change in the way that Roy Clark wrote from the beginning of Last of the Summer Wine to how he started writing later on. So in the beginning, it was very much focused on the 3 characters, Compo, Clegg and Blaymeyer. We move along and we get to these in the 80s and 90s when it becomes more of an ensemble cast and you get to see all of the different characters working together. This actually worked out well when you get to the end of the series with Peter Sellis and Frank Thornton no longer allowed to actually go and film outdoors, so they had to change the dynamic a lot, and they were often seen indoors because they couldn't get insurance to be outside due to being such older actors at the time. So it's nice to see where it starts to become more of an ensemble cast where things are branching out and you get to see all these different stories tying in to create this huge narrative, and I really appreciate it. I liked getting to see all these characters who we get to see them regularly converse, but with the idea of them getting ready for this wedding, you get the idea of the community and the sense of the community that is at the core of this tale and how these people actually do get on with each other, which I know it's not real, but it does give this sense of realism to the whole of the script, and something that I have thought about for many years in terms of my own books. When we look at Doris and we look at the Alice Valentine books and the reoccurring characters, and indeed the standalone that I plan to write next, they're all set in the same world. And something I have considered, because they do have connections, Alf and Edith were the first created for the charity shop radio play that I wrote over a decade ago. And Alf and Edith are Martin's grandparents. Alf and Edith also happen to be Doris and Harold's best friends. And so the charity shop was always a connection there. Then you have Alice appearing in the first book, Our Doris, and you get mention of her in the second book as well. And I have ideas, and I sometimes wonder about maybe doing one special novel at some point where a few characters from all of these different books are shown all working on some sort of similar event. I don't know whether it'd ever happen, I don't know whether it would ever work, but watching these things by Roy Clark, The Last of the Summer Wine, Keeping Up Appearances, anything where it's now changed from being so focused on a certain character to expanding the world and including lots of different people, it always makes me think that at least I have the idea of how to do that. I can go back, I can watch that, and I can figure out how this writer did it to perhaps try and educate myself on how I would like to do that. As I say, want to get this final Doris book edited. Now, I do just mean a very quick edit because I have edited as I go. We still have that very big bit, but I've not had the opportunity to fix that simply because of time and other things getting in the way. Finally put up the Christmas tree though, went shopping with the mother one day and they had them on sale, so that's up and that is decorated, and Sally just stares at it wondering why she can't eat it. She does like to eat a lot of things, which is why I put my favourite ornaments around the centre where she can't reach. And if she does happen to bite into a glass bauble, I'm aware I will have a vet spill on my hands, the likes of which has never been known to man, in which case I will probably end up highlighting my Ko-fi page in my books more, should that ever happen. But luckily she's only picked up one bauble and I don't think she liked the texture, so she got rid of that. But if she does eat my singing reindeer, it's curtains. For the reindeer, I couldn't do it to the dog. My mother would still give her a treat no matter what. Food motivated, my sister calls it. I was like, well, what did you expect being part of this family? I think that's all I really needed to talk about today. I've not got many plans for this week. Oh, I did get to see my nephew last Sunday. Yeah, let's talk about that. So I arrived home from work. This was the day when I was, so this was the Sunday. I remember this now. So I arrived home from work the day that my manager had arrived whilst I was recording this Woolgathering video. And my brother had parked in my space, the bugger. And he says, you'll be all right to have nephew in the morning. And it's like, well, I guess I have to. You can't really not, can you? So my nephew arrived 7 o'clock in the morning. The first day off I've had in ages, but thank you. I didn't know what he expected to do because half the people were still in bed, so he couldn't go playing upstairs like he likes to do. So we sat him down, we were watching Tom and Jerry, we were watching all these things, he had a bit of breakfast, we were playing, chatting. I found some photos of him on his school's website, and he was sulking on every one of them, looking grumpy as heck. And then I find out they had a water fight one day. Well, there's his face brightened up, he's smiling in every photo, he's thrilled when he gets to shoot a water gun in his teacher's face. I thought, well, that's my nephew. My one takeaway from this was, for over a month now, we've been asking him what he wants for Christmas, and he's not told us. And even last Sunday, I asked him what he was getting. His one main present from Santa, and I looked it up whilst he was there, and he said, "That's the one, but I want that one too." Well, I'm not getting him this other one, simply because he has a birthday in February, and so I thought, let's leave it a month at least between getting two huge gifts, and we'll speak to his parents, which is what happened. But what occurred was, they live in Scotland now, and so he had this 4-hour journey up there in the afternoon, and he arrived home, and suddenly he was really looking forward to Christmas. And he's written his letter to Santa, and as I said at the start of this video, he now wants coal because he wants to keep everyone warm who's visiting him. I hope he doesn't think that I'm going up to visit him, not because I'm being mean, but because I've got to work, and, well, I don't want to break anybody's heart. I don't think it'd break anyone's heart, really. But I was happy that somehow getting to see his family had made him feel somewhat more festive and make him look forward to Christmas, which was nice. Even if he can be supremely aggressive and feral. But remember, this is the lad I wrote Flaming Piss Wet Through about that I shared at the start of this month. And that's that, really. If you want to talk about anything I've talked about in this video, then please feel free to do so in the comments. I hope you got something rather than sheer boredom, and people are home, so until next time, that is all.